The theme of today's video is vintage fragrances. In fact, I have a couple here that I consider to be the very best. We have Chypres, we have aromatic Fougeres, we have woody Fougeres. We got them all. There's going to be one on this list for everybody. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, this video is for you. Hey guys, welcome back to Real Scent Review. I absolutely love vintage fragrances. But the problem is, some of my favorites are long discontinued and just impossible to find out there. And honestly, I don't really feel like coughing up several $100 to buy a vintage bottle. So what I've done is I've compiled a list of the best vintage style fragrances. Some of these are older than other ones, but they all have that characteristic vintage, gentlemanly, masculine, refined, clean style to them in one way or another. So while some of these aren't actually that old, they all have that wonderfully vintage, classic masculine style. What are the criteria for this video? Well, they have to smell vintage. They have to have written on the bottle, keep out of reach of children. No, that's not true. But younger people are not going to like these, I can guarantee you that. And they have to be readily available. So I haven't included any super difficult to find fragrances on this list. But yeah, without any further ado, let's get into this. But just before we begin, I'd like to mention two honorable mentions here. The first one is 1890 by Histoire de Parfum. Think Antaeus by Chanel with a lot of dry jasmine. Dries down to the same animalic kind of castoreum, leathery, smoky thing. This one here is super fantastic. It's just so hard to find. The other one is Outrecuidant by Histoire de Parfums as well. This one here, again, think Antaeus, think Koros, but with a nice fruity pineapple thing on top, but yeah, with that same animalic masculine dry down. Okay, let's get into the official list now. This one here is going to be Vetiver Patchouli by Montale. The main notes in this one are carrot seed, vetiver, and patchouli. So out of all the ones on this list, I might consider this one to be the least vintage. It does have a lot of vetiver, so it's green, grassy, dry. It has some interesting carrot seed, which is going to add a mineralic, vegetal quality. And it definitely has some earthy, dry, kind of woody patchouli. It doesn't go in the chocolatey direction at all. It's like I said, dry, woody, kind of like leaves on the ground, perhaps. When I smell this, however, I am reminded of like a tweed suit, a gentleman wearing a tweed suit, maybe smoking a pipe, you know, Sherlock Holmes type of character. That's kind of the style that I imagine here. Or maybe walking through a green field in Ireland in the spring with some dew on the grass and everything like that. Yeah, that's kind of the picture in my head. This is a very Irish fragrance, I guess you could say. But yeah, it's Vetiver Patchouli by Montale, and although this might not be the most vintage style fragrance on the list, I think it still fits into that category of, you know, classic masculine refined green perfumery, and it's literally my favorite fragrance ever. Yeah, it's just perfect in all ways as far as I'm concerned. The second one on this list, it's from Rogue Perfumery. It's Absolue de Mousse. So this one here is all about the oak moss, of course, but there's also a good amount of Artemisia and Olibanum. So the Artemisia in this one is going to open up the show for us. And it smells a little bit lactonic. It smells a little bit like licorice. It's very woody. It's got, like I said, a lactonic part to it. It's very herbal as well. It's a little bit of a strange opening, some people may find. But yeah, once you get past the opening, it's an overdose of oak moss. It smells green, fresh, a little bit damp, a little bit woody, maybe a little bit mushroomy, some would say. But yeah, the oak moss, absolutely the star of the show. And if you know anything about Rogue Perfumery, Manuel Cross uses real oak moss in his concoctions here. And you can definitely notice super fresh, realistic oak moss. Absolutely delectable. If you're a fan of oak moss, you have to have this fragrance in your collection. What I really enjoy about this one, though, is when it dries down, there's a lot of olibanum. So we get that kind of like burnt, smoky, woody incense thing. Oh, it's so refreshingly unique. I mean, oak moss is included in a lot of fragrances, especially vintage style fragrances. But the note of olibanum in this is really fantastic. It adds that resinous, like I said, incensey, woody smokiness to the dry down that keeps it from being 100% green. The fragrance is very much based on green notes and accords, but that incense, man, really darkens the whole thing up a bit. I really like it. This is perfect for the cooler months. Absolute Mousse by Row Perfumery. The next one is Fahrenheit Eau de Toilette by Dior. So the main notes in this one are violet leaf, nutmeg, leather, and mandarin. Hands down, one of the most unique scent profiles of all time. We get that sweet mandarin and nutmeg to open things up for us. Dries down with a lot of violet leaf, which, yes, smells a little bit like gasoline. And there's an oily leather. This smells like filling up your motorcycle on a fall morning before going on a long road trip. You're wearing a leather jacket. Totally the vibe I get. It's a very distinct smell that I think kind of fits in its own category, but it does smell a little bit mature, smells a little bit dated, some might say, but I think this is just one of the most unique and absolutely one of the best scent profiles of all time. Mature, dark, oily leather with that very prominent violet leaf. There's some spice in this from the nutmeg as well. It is really just a fantastic, timeless fragrance. There are a lot of other notes officially included in this, a lot of them florals. Although it's arguable as to how prominent those florals really are in this. I don't know. The violet leaf, though, technically a flower. Very, very, very strong in this. So anyway, there's that. But this one took the world by storm in 1988. This is a very, very important fragrance for fragrance enthusiasts, for people who are into style and fashion at all. This one here, man, really broke the mold, made a name for itself in the world of French designers. It's amazing. You have to get your nose on this one if you haven't yet. Even if you don't like it, you have to know what this smells like if you're a perfume collector. It's the original Fahrenheit by Dior. Next up is Molton Brown's Russian Leather EDP. Cade oil, geranium, leather, and black pepper. So this one here is like a dark version of an aromatic Fougere. There's a lot of geranium in this. It gives it a floral, minty character. There's a little bit of leather in this. It's very dry, but there's more so a lot of black pepper, I find, which gives it a light kind of spice to it, a nice aromatic herbal spice. But by far the most prominent note that I get is the cade oil. So it's concentrated juniper berries, and it smells smoky, it smells piney, and it smells woody. This one here, imagine you're freshly clean shaven, sitting around a bonfire in a Siberian forest in the middle of winter. That's what this smells like. It's classic. You can definitely tell that aromatic backbone in this one here. It's one of the ones that I consider just to be an absolute masterpiece. I love this in the wintertime. It's a strong aromatic Fougere with very dark, smoky, woody characteristics. This one nowadays actually goes under the name Dark Leather Eau de Parfum, but it's actually the exact same fragrance. Like, I've tested the new one before, and it's one of those rare occasions in which the new version of the fragrance smells exactly the same as the old one. So if you ever see a bottle called Molton Brown Dark Leather EDP, it's the same thing. Pasha Parfum by Cartier. The main notes in this one: whiskey, amber, tonka bean, and sandalwood. So this one here is actually relatively new in the grand scheme of things, but it has that classic aromatic kind of Pasha vibe from the original Pasha, which in itself was not really an old fragrance. I think that was only released in 1992, actually. But yeah, this opens up with some whiskey and amber. There's a definite boozy accord. It's woody. It's slightly sweet. It's boozy, but it's not overly boozy. It's not smelling like something like Baraonda by Orto Parisi, for example, which is just overwhelmingly boozy in the opening. This isn't quite on that level. But yeah, it does have some whiskey, some nice whiskey in the opening here. Dries down with amber, yes. So it's a fuzzy kind of vanillic amber without ever going cloying. A bit of resinous quality as well. There's some kind of nutty, creamy tonka bean in the bottom, but what really makes this fragrance a masterpiece is that sandalwood. It's a slightly spicy, smooth, polished type of wood accord, and mixed with that whiskey especially, oh man. This is a total masterpiece. This is one you wear for really formal events when you're going to put on a tuxedo and stuff like that. This stuff screams refinement, masculinity, vintage power, and just masculinity, such class, such refinement. It's really amazing. It's one of my favorite sandalwood fragrances ever. It's Pasha Parfum by Cartier. Next one up is Vert Fougere by Floris. The main notes in this one are juniper berry, galbanum, bergamot, smoke, and pine. So in the opening, It's like pure gin and tonic, very aromatic, very sharp, very camphoraceous, a little bit boozy. Now, juniper berry, I don't think is an official main note in this, but it's gin and tonic, you know, at the very opening here. That's absolutely what I get. So it's bracing opening, sharp, and it becomes even sharper the more this dries down. There's a lot of galbanum, which is a very kind of metallic, herbal, aromatic smell. Very green, very sharp. And as the pine starts to make itself more apparent, there's a general minty character, and the camphoraceous parts get deeper and more prominent. So it's very interesting. Definitely not going to be everybody's cup of tea, especially because in the dry down, there's a lot of smoke. It's like a black, freshly burnt wood accord. Probably guaiac wood, I'm going to say, is responsible for the smoke accord in this one. It's a heavy fragrance, and it's very bitter, green, aromatic, herbal, and it's got that piney, camphoraceous characteristic. It's got that gin and tonic opening. Very classic, very harshly masculine fragrance here. The performance on this is very good. This is going to appeal to you if you really like those vintage style fragrances. I have a feeling this is going to turn most people under the age of 35 off, I would say. Yeah, this is just a very classic fragrance. And ironically, it was only really released, I think, a few years ago. So yeah, there's that. But hands down, one of the best vintage style fragrances you can get. And it's got the performance, it's got the quality, it's got that scent profile that, you know, granted is not going to appeal to everybody. But if you're a fan of vintage style perfumery, check this out, Vert Fougere by Floris. Another Dior on this list. This time it's going to be Eau Sauvage Parfum. So the main notes in this one are elemi resin, citron, vetiver, and vanilla. Opens up with a very resinous elemi. It's kind of got like a waxy, maybe lemon characteristic to it. Kind of smells like a recently extinguished candle. There's a little bit of a smoky, incensey nuance hanging around as well. Lots of citron, lots of vetiver. Gonna give it a very citrusy, classic, soapy style accord. That particular combination can remind some people of neroli. But this does dry down with some vanilla. The vanilla in this might be borderline powdery, but it's not cloying at all. It maintains a very classic scent DNA. This one does. I especially like the elemi resin in the beginning. It's got that waxy kind of incensey smokiness that I find just makes this an absolute masterpiece. It is vintage. It is classic. Some younger people would say this smells like their grandfather. I think as far as those like green, citric, resinous, slightly vanillic, soapy fragrances go, this is absolutely, absolutely one of the best. In fact, from the entire Dior house, actually, I consider this to be like their number one, maybe number two fragrance of all time. This is spectacular. This is a masterpiece. And it's got the performance. This one here, one of the strongest fragrances in my collection. I have very, very, very little bit left. I'm trying to conserve it as much as possible because this stuff just smells so damn good. And yeah, I'm going to stop talking about this one now before I douse the whole bottle on myself. But anyway, it's Eau Sauvage Parfum by Dior. Next one up is Etruscan Water by Francesca Bianchi. The main notes in this one are vetiver, bergamot, orris root, ambergris, and musk. So we definitely notice that characteristic Francesca Bianchi spicy orris root mixed with musk. So to put it simply, it kind of smells like an iris, maybe an iris that's not quite as powdery as other irises, and there's definitely a spicy characteristic to it as well. And a muskiness. So that's the Francesca Bianchi scent DNA. We definitely get that in the dried out of this one here. But this one opens up a little bit brighter and greener because of the vetiver and the bergamot. Green citrus gratiness. It smells classic, yes. It smells refined and masculine. It's very much in that classic Chypre range of fragrances, absolutely. But then something interesting happens halfway through the scent development, and that is some ambergris comes out, so it gives it like a salty kind of sea breezy characteristic. It's almost as though it's a Chypre fragrance crossed with like the foundation of an aquatic fragrance. I am not calling this an aquatic fragrance or a blue or a marine fragrance because it's not. It's very much a classic Chypre with just a touch, just an absolute smidgen of an aquatic fragrance thrown in. I still think this is a very classic scent profile, and I still think most young guys are not going to like this. Like, you have to like old school heavy chypre, kind of slightly maybe animalic style fragrances in order to appreciate this one. But if you're into chypres, it doesn't get much better than this. I consider this to be absolutely one of the best chypres of all time. Etruscan Water by Francesca Bianchi. The performance is there, the quality is there. It's a chypre, yes, but it's still got that unique Francesca Bianchi DNA. It's a stupendous fragrance. You got to be looking into this if you like chypres. Next up, it's Beau de Jour by Tom Ford. Main notes in this one are lavender, oak moss, and vanilla. Very simplistic note breakdown, very luxurious smell, especially the lavender in this. Very concentrated lavender, very heavy. In fact, it's one of my favorite lavender-based fragrances ever. We do get that classic sweet aromatic floral lavender with some spice, but like, yeah, that lavender develops completely. We get the entire development of the lavender from the spicy, maybe halfway licorice opening of the lavender to the soapy kind of floral, aromatic, herbal dry down as well. This fragrance to me is very much about the lavender, but there also is a big dose of oak moss in this to give it a damp, kind of woody, maybe slightly mushroom, typical oak moss characteristic. But this combination of lavender and oak moss lies on a bed of vanilla. It's very prominent, like the vanilla is there, you can definitely tell, but it's not cloying, it's not heavy. This does not go sweet. It's certainly not a gourmand fragrance. It's very much a classic aromatic Fougere DNA, just kind of sweetened up, which does two things. Makes this more versatile, makes you able to wear this in colder weather, for example, and it'll stand up to the colder weather, because the second thing that vanilla does is it makes this a very, very strong performer. But yeah, if you're like me and you enjoy aromatic Fougeres, in fact, you love aromatic Fougeres, but you find that far too many of them are just far too weak and fleeting for your tastes, give Beau de Jour a try. You will not be disappointed. And the number one best vintage style fragrance, in my opinion, is Patchouli Intense by Nicolai. The main notes in this one are orange and lavender in the opening. In the mid, geranium and rose. And this dries down with cinnamon, vanilla, and sandalwood. So first things first, soapy. This is a very soapy style fragrance. In my opinion, one of the best soapy fragrances to exist. So if you don't like soap, you're gonna hate this one. Very vintage style fragrance here. In fact, it reminds me a lot of Abbey Rouge by Guerlain, which is a little bit interesting because if you know anything about the history of Guerlain and Patricia de Nicolai, that might make some sense to you. But yeah, I definitely get a little bit of a reminder of Abbey Rouge in this one. Sweet orange and aromatic floral lavender in the beginning here. In the mid, we get more florals. The geranium is going to add like a minty freshness to this one. Also, there is a prominent rose, but the rose is fresh, a little bit floral, yes, but more watery and kind of soft. It's not a jammy, sweet rose at all. I like rose in fragrances when it's done the way it's done. In this one here, in the dry down, it's vanilla and cinnamon mixed together. We get that spicy, earthy cinnamon with a little bit of a kind of powdery vanilla. It's a very classic style vanilla. It does not go cloying whatsoever. And those notes are met by some beautifully creamy, almost powdery, soft sandalwood. So it's not that polished wood kind of spicy style of sandalwood that we get in things such as Le Labo's Santal 33, for example. Nah, it's more on the softer kind of creamy side of sandalwood. All in all, this is a total masterpiece of fragrance, but you have to really like the vintage style, because this would turn a lot of people off, especially younger people. It's got like super vintage vibes. This smells like it's from another era, which is interesting because, again, it's not really that old. There are certain other fragrances on this list that are much older than this one, for example, but it smells straight out of the 1930s, I would imagine. Yeah, fur coats, all that stuff, big hair, classic style, back when going out on the weekend was a really important thing. You wanted to make your presence known in a classy way, for example. This, I would imagine, is what that smelled like. Anyway, yeah, this is just a fantastic fragrance here. Again, if you like vintage style, soapy, chypres, yeah, just perfection. This is pure perfection. By the way, the performance is beastly. This is a monstrous performer, so be warned, but also, be excited, because if you like the vintage styles, it really doesn't get much better than this, in my opinion. It's Patchouli Intense by Nicolai. Okay, guys, thanks for sticking around for so long. this list has not been exhaustive. There are many others that I would have included were it not for the fact that they are just so difficult to find. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless. By the way, I want to know your guys' favorite vintage style fragrances. Which ones would you have added to this list? I gotta take off and head back to work now. I've been recording videos on my lunch breaks lately, which might explain why they seem kind of rushed sometimes, but I gotta take off, guys, and until next time, keep it